two things that each parent told me and Randall growing up. Our mom always told us, you don't have a real job unless you have to mop the floor every now and then. And then our dad always told us, there ain't a dog in the world that don't want its ears scratched.
Welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass, where business growth is made simple. I'm your host, Albert Gillespie.
And I'm your co-host, Kellen Ketchersid. Join us as we bring you stories from business leaders so you can learn from their wins, their losses, and everything in between.
Today's guest is the co-owner of Monomyth Coffee, based right here in Lubbock, Texas. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Trenton Jackson.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I am excited to have you, man.
Absolutely.
So Monomyth Coffee, It's not just a coffee shop. You guys are doing quite a bit of stuff. Give us a quick 30-second. What is Monomyth Coffee? How are you guys different from the average coffee shop?
I think we're different from the average coffee shop in the level of attention and care that we give our guests and our team beyond just the product. And we really try to cultivate a culture of positivity, encouragement, both to our guests and to our team, and a standard of excellence across our systems that ideally when you come into the cafe, you're not going to have a typical experience. We want it to be a memorable and impressionable experience when you come in with Monomyth. So we don't want to be like the other guys. And so we really try to train our team, coach them up, and connect with our guests in a way that's more intentional and hospitable than most places.
I like that. That. Okay, and so what you guys do, and so you have a cafe, you guys are roasting coffee. Give me a little bit of that. What is that?
So the scope of our company, so we have the cafe on Broadway, Avenue U and Broadway, 2024 Broadway. And then we have a roasting program. There we have several wholesale clients and a retail store online. So we do a lot of retail and wholesale sales. And then also a catering program too, where we get out and have a mobile espresso pop-up that we can do anywhere for weddings, parties, private events, things like that, and just even collaborations with businesses and things. So it's good community exposure. And so those are the big three for our company at the moment.
I love that. When you talk about your hospitality as a business, it's the Chick-fil-A, my pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have a vernacular and a way you interact with the guests that is like, obviously you guys have studied that and thought of, okay, how do we offer unreasonable hospitality to everyone that walks in through the door? And even at events like y'all's pop-up stand that you send, like, it's great. It's great. It's there's coffee shops everywhere and they all have their own unique spin on that. But to see something that's local that you guys have poured into every little detail. Okay, tell me a little more. So the coffee shop, people coming in, that you have pastries and food and kind of all of the drinks, and then really just this culture of hospitality, which better or worse is kind of expected. Then you have these other two arms where you're roasting,
right?
And then you're doing some wholesale sales. And so give me some background on the roasting. What is that? I know, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Right. So the roasting is a very big aspect of what we do. And we knew when we started the company that was going to be a big element for us. And so in funding it and building the company to start, we included that in our scope, like in our vision. We said, okay, so we're going to open cafe, Broadway, and within a year, we'd like to be roasting too. And so we were open in June 2019, and we're open for a few months, and then COVID happened in the spring of 2020. And we had purchased the roaster at the beginning of the year. It delivered. We had no idea what to do. And at the end of 2020, we roasted our first batch of coffee in December of 2020 and got to season the roaster and get it operational and began roasting in 2020. We slipped it into bags and never told anybody that we were now serving our roasted product because we just wanted to see if anybody would just barf or if they liked it. And so that was kind of a moment and we had good response, and then eventually started selling it in March of 2020. But we knew that was going to be pivotal for us as far as just having that kind of stacked in the silo for our business. integrating those margins and making sure that we had that to, again, control every aspect of the quality of the coffee that we know. We know everything that's going into the cup. We have control over that and can dictate and curate something that's excellent. And so it's been fun to have a roasting program. It's taken a lot into it. It's grown too. It's been really fun to watch it grow. We roasted in a room, maybe, I don't know, 600 square feet. It was not very big. And then maybe less than that, actually. It was almost a closet. And, eventually as we were growing, we were kind of slipping past bags of coffee, dumping buckets up into the roaster, nearly dropping stuff. And then we had a really great opportunity with where we are now. One of our regulars at the shop has some properties. We just threw a line out, hey, are any of those properties open, available, warehouse type thing? Say, yep, we got one fully furnished. Y'all can move in right now. And it's been great. So now we actually in a warehouse where we're, roasting 600 to 800 pounds of coffee a week. It's been really great and continuing to grow. I think our growth percent is still very good. We're growing well, and we're trying to continue that and speed it up even more. So we're trying to be very aggressive with our wholesale and our retail, because that's another really great stream of revenue to have, especially beyond just our own cafe, but other cafes too. So,
okay. So the roasting process is you're taking green
yes
coffee beans.
Yep.
And you're putting it into a machine that is, heating it up.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, cooking a steak or baking bread. There's like a level that you want to cook it for like the most flavor.
Yes.
And so you guys have like been fine tuning that recipe, and it sounds like it's kind of like a cast iron skillet. Like you want to season it just right.
That's a great comparison. I actually just saw a guy break down coffee in a way I hadn't heard it explained, which I think translates really well to, because people will ask now, what's specialty coffee? And how do you tell somebody why? How do you translate the value of the coffee that you're selling? It's more expensive to buy a bag of beans at Monomyth than it is to buy at United.
Sure.
And so how do you communicate that value? And so what we do, a good way that I've heard it just recently that I'm excited about is, you go into the grocery store and you get any coffee off the shelf, Folgers, those pre-ground Pete's, anything, Cafe Bustelo, any of those things that are good if you're expecting it, anticipating. I love going to my grandparents' house and having Folgers, putting some cream in it. I love that as much as I do brewing something at the cafe. But so roasting it, the way that we curate and treat our coffee and source our coffee is much more like a ribeye versus a hamburger. So the coffee at the grocery store is more like the hamburger. It doesn't really matter what type of beef it is, 80-20, 70-30. You've got your beef mix, and you don't really care about where that cow came from. You don't really care about, its name or, the farm, anything like that. But you just grind it up and you grill it, and you're really excited about the Maillard reaction, how brown and kind of sizzled it is, and caramelize those sugars and fats in the meat, and then put that on a smash burger. That's delicious. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves Folgers. Like those big names are big names and reputational because it's coffee. You're getting that charred, carbonic, kind of dark, bitter thing that is known as coffee. But now there has been this specialty push, which is more like the ribeyes. We're saying, okay, this cow was on this farm. It was treated this way, like Wagyu even. Like you're like, it was massaged every day, stuff like that. Like we know the farmer's name, we know where it was grown, like what slope of hill. You can dial it in and say, okay, this was a micro lot in this farm in Panama, and this is the name of the farmer, and he harvested this in February, and now it's here, and it's this varietal. And so we cut and prepare it and grill it just like a ribeye, where we know the temperature, the time, we care about its storage, we care about all those things. And so there's a lot more attention and detail to try to, and you don't overcook it either. I prefer my steaks a little red, and so there's still some of that flavor in there too, where we're not just charring it. There is still some of that intrinsic flavor that is natural to the bean. And so I don't know, I liked that steak versus hamburger comparison recently, where that kind of helps communicate the value of specialty versus commodity grade coffee, which is fun. So we're in the ribeye coffee game. So
the ribeye game. Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about like the slope of the hill and this and that. Okay, give me more. Okay, you're buying coffee. Where are you buying these beans from? Like describe that process and
right.
supply chain. Like how are you like flying to Panama and Brazil? Like give me a little more.
Eventually, yeah, that's our goal too. One of our 3-year goals is to develop a direct trade relationship with a producer in some country of origin. So, where we know some farmer in Colombia by name, have his phone number on dial, call him, say, hey, we'd like to secure, so many 1,000 pounds of coffee. Can you do that? They ship it on a sea crate. That's our goal. We'd love to have that direct trade relationship. Right now, we currently source through a lot of importers in the United States. So they work with farmers directly and have those relationships. And then they have the infrastructure and capacity to purchase large amounts, hold it, and sell it to coffee companies like ourselves. So we use a lot of importers, mainly on the coast. Like there's some in East Coast, New Jersey, Houston, LA, kind of all around those ports that are importing coffee from all over the world. So we purchase coffee from Ethiopia, Kenya, Guatemala, Colombia, El Salvador, Mexico, all sorts of places that are producing countries. And a lot of farmers, as you scale too with a coffee company, you are able to have more purchasing power and communicate those needs more clearly to producers where you can secure those relationships. And so that's something we're looking forward to doing. So, and we're really close. So
is it okay? I think of, we're in Lubbock, we're in cotton country.
Yes.
And every year it's different.
Yep.
Every year, the rain,
yes,
when it gets hot, when it gets cold, the crop is different.
Yep.
Every year. What is that like in coffee?
It's the exact same. There's bumper years where you're like, whoa, hey, we got a great harvest. We're rolling. Brazil in 2016 had one of the biggest harvests ever, and so that really sent ripples through the market where the prices kind of stayed stable and low for quite a while. But then now there's this disease called coffee rust, which is attacking Arabica coffee species, and so that's diminishing the population. There's a lot of weather in the Central America right now that are kind of influencing poor harvest yields, and there's also a lot more competition now. So the market that's been one thing to learn and get excited about too on this side, the purchasing side, watching the market, being aware of that, tracking prices. Coffee is a traded good on the stock exchange. It has futures that are sold every day, and so watching the price of it ebb and flow has been really fun too. So last February, coffee was over $4 a pound, and that was historic. Never crossed the $4 per pound line, and we were all freaking out. I think everybody in the coffee game kind of gulped. And we're like, what do we do now? And so we had to adapt a little bit, had to raise prices. And again, how do you communicate value? How do you do all that? You kind of have to be agile in adapting to the market. Now it's kind of come back down a little bit, but it's still very volatile. It could change any second. And so we just have to be level-headed and flexible and try to support our guests and our team through our goods as best we can too.
Okay. As I'm listening to you, we have a little hobby garden in our backyard.
Yep.
And one of my favorite things that we grow are jalapenos.
Yeah.
And there's you can't really control the flavor, but there's certain things that control the flavor where it's what else is in that planter, what's being cross-pollinated, what point in the year you pluck it, and if it's a little drier and the sun gets to it and it's hot, it'll make it a little more spicy. Anyway, I'm rambling.
Right.
Is there what are some kind of the attributes of the bean that you guys are looking for when it comes to a flavor profile, and what does that mean for the producer?
Right. So it's a really unique agricultural product because just like any other food item, bananas, apples is probably the best metaphor too. You think about, okay, I'm buying an apple, but am I buying a Fuji, a Red Delicious, Granny Smith, all those things. Yeah. There's different varietals. So there are different varietals in coffee, and just like grapes too, like terroir, when you're talking about people talking about wines and they're sniffing wines and things like that. You can have the same varietal of coffee. You can take a Caturra. That's one of the varietals. You could take a Caturra and plant it in Colombia. You could take that same thing and plant it in Guatemala. And based on where they are, maybe they're on volcanic soil one, something, depending on where the soil of the actual tree is grown in, there's going to be subtle differences. And so there's a similar overlay with kind of its market, like wine, like chocolate, like apples, any of those agricultural products that, again, are influenced by the soil they're in, varietals, species, things like that. And so for us, what we try to do strategically as a company is we try to offer, mainstay blend that we curate with getting different varietals that are kind of in the same wheelhouse of flavor. We we're roasting. I left the roastery. We're roasting samples right now. We're always sampling coffees, getting little samples of green, roasting it, tasting it, seeing if it fits our profiles. They're going to go into a blend that can be reliable.
Yeah.
Again, the blend, we call it the blend, but it's not like Coke. The stuff going into the blend is different.
Right.
But we try to curate that same flavor profile every time, to where when you get that bag, the champion, it's going to taste the same. It's going to taste very similar.
Yeah.
You're going to get that, just crowd pleaser coffee. But then we also do purchase, one-offs where it's like, hey, this is a natural processed coffee from Ethiopia, and it's going to be very fruity and bright and maybe a little acidity. But then we might also have a washed Colombia that is more earthy and grounded and smooth and rounded. And so things like that, depending on where the coffee's from, its species, it's varietal, and then how it's processed too. There's different ways to get because coffee is like a cherry, and it's got a pit, and you extract the pit from the cherry, so the seeds, and so then that's what you take and roast. So it's these green little beans that you roast and turn brown. So
okay, that makes me think of like wine, a red blend. Like that's the crowd pleaser. Like if you're not, you don't have a complex palate,
right?
There's guys I can't taste, I can't smell.
Gestalt of oak, things like, I don't know what that means. Coffee tastes like coffee.
Yep.
And that's where you have to start. You start there first, because I think coffee as a commodity is first an energy. I think we're all, the two most traded commodities in the world, oil for our cars, and then coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world for our bodies. So we've got fuel for the cars, fuel for the body. And so I think first, coffee is caffeine, it's ritual, and it's community. And then from there, you can drill down deep and say, oh, it's a craft, it's a hobby, it's an interest, things like that. And so we can't get too ahead of ourselves and, try to, I think there's some coffee shops that don't have as much success because they might just stay in that, we're only specialty, we only do this. And if you're not about it, we're not about you. And we're about whoever wants to come in and meet us, and we get to encourage and leave them better than we found them. And coffee's the vessel for us translating that encouragement. And so we want to have people come into our shop who are excited about being good people to each other with a cup of coffee in their hand. That's that. And so again, we do care about the craft. By all means, that is, that's for us, that on the hierarchy of needs, that's the baseline. Quality product, quality coffee, that's just the base. And, for us to succeed as a company, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like self-fulfillment or whatever, self-esteem. There's, for us, that's guest engagement. Did we win their heart? Did we invite them to come back? Did we make a difference in their day? Did we encourage somebody through our service? And so, yes, we're in the coffee game, but I think that's just the barrier to entry that we have to cross, is having a superior product that then we can use to encourage people. So,
okay. You've been in our
the cohort,
our mastermind cohort, and I've gotten to watch and learn from you the last 6 months. And one thing that has really stuck out is your numbers. Like you're like you like present yourself as like a like artsy craftsman who like, kind of mad scientist with the coffee. But then we start talking business and like, your numbers like no one else. And a couple of questions here. Like one, like where does that come from? Right. And then two, for the listeners, for the non-coffee businessman, woman, what are some of the numbers that you think people really don't pay attention to that they really need to? And so there's two questions there. Let's start with like, dude, where did this go? Are you a math guy? Like, where did this come from?
I'm not a math guy. Okay. My favorite subjects in school were history and English, and I loved those. That's what I still read and pursue. My YouTube algorithm is all, church history, historic battles, things like that. So my YouTube algorithm is very boring, and it's not very business minded. And I think it's something that we've had to learn. And that's what I love about working with my brother Randall too, because we have kind of a yin and yang where he's probably more the numbers guy. I don't want to understate. I think we both understand the value of needing to know our number. Like that is imperative. You've got to have a pulse on. You got to know your blood pressure. You got to know what that is so you can adapt. Do you need to step back? Do you need to relax? Do you need to go for it? It's kind of like a workout. I've never done Orange Theory or anything like that, but I think that concept is really cool. Where it's like I know my number, I know my threshold, I know when I need to slow down. I know when I need to be aggressive. I know I need to push myself. And I think that translates exactly to business. That's kind of what we try to do is always checking a pulse, always watching numbers. And again, that is something that we did not have the first 2 or 3 years until we got Blake Thomas. Shout out Blake Thomas.
Yeah.
And we call him the CFO of Monomyth Coffee. And so it's been really great to have him help us get a better picture of that and understand that. And we knew starting to, we had set metrics. We knew what percentages, COGS, overhead, all those things would need to fall in. We had been inspired by some other guys out on the West Coast that were very good at what they were doing and, encouraged us to start that way too. And so we had a grasp on it, but we didn't have a pulse on it, a regular pulse. And
okay,
so,
hang on. I need to pause you there. I like where this is. Okay, so a lot of business owners, when they get started, they don't know, like, what should my margin be? How much should I spend on marketing? Where do I even start? Like, how do I go find the industry number for that?
Right.
And y'all's approach to that was, hey, let's reach out to a competitor in a different market, a peer in a different market who's done it longer, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Okay, tell me about that interaction. How did you guys start that relationship, and how did you kind of extract some of those rules of thumb as you started your business?
Anybody in the coffee industry probably knows Cat and Cloud Coffee, and they were our heroes forever. They started a podcast way back in the 20 teens, and they just talked about business and hospitality in a way that a lot of people hadn't been. I think a lot of people I don't really like this term, like gate kept. Like they were not gatekeeping their information. They were very sharing of how they succeed, what metrics they use to define success, how they measure it, what they implement. And so we partnered with them even too when we started. Before we started roasting our own coffee, we were using Cat and Cloud. And with that partnership, we were able to be coached and trained by them. And so that they inspired us to do the same thing for what we do now too. We roast, we now consult and train. And, anybody that's a wholesale partner, we try to, set everybody up for success who comes with us. And so having a grasp on that was essential. And again, we had a literal pie chart of, employee costs should never be over 30% for a coffee shop. So we keep employee costs under 30% all the time. And we can't ever go above that. Or we have to, adapt and change and stuff like that. So example, and like margins on retail, margins on merch, margins on, how much you should be making every cup. And then if you need to succeed, what numbers you need to make every day to then begin paying your team fair or better than fair. Like we try to pay our team beyond market cost right now too. And so that's come with making sure that we were setting up and establishing the right metrics for success too, and pushing ourselves to capture those things and make sure we're watching them. But yeah, and remind me the other part of that question too. What was that?
Well, it was like, what is maybe a metric or even a concept that like the average, business leader like really needs to pay attention to?
Yes. I think a unique number in retail, in service industry, anything like restaurant, retail, anything like that, I think cost per square foot. So, or profit per square foot. So thinking, so what you're paying per square foot each month versus what you're making, revenue as a whole divided by your square foot per month. I think that's a really cool number. And we're very fortunate where we are with the relationship we have with Randall's wife's grandfather who purchased the building, and we directly lease from him. So it's in the family. He is very generous with the lease rate that we have. And that's a competitive advantage that we have as a coffee company. But again, knowing what we're making per square foot versus what we're spending per square foot, I think that's a unique number too, and something you should take into account because it helps you be efficient with your space. Because something we're trying to do with the Broadway location is drill deep where we are, like optimize. How much more money can we generate from this one spot? How can we drill deep? How can we increase that revenue per square foot? And that comes with, raising ticket prices, trying to collect bigger ticket prices by offering, we have pastries. Now we have oat bowls. Should we pursue a cook to order, our toast menu on Saturdays? Should we have more, sandwich options to raise the average transaction from X amount, $2 or $3 or $4 more dollars, things like that. So I think those numbers can always be utilized to help, drive revenue. So, but I think that's a unique number recently that we've started paying attention to is revenue per square foot.
I love that. And in Stag Business Coaching, we always encourage our clients, like, let's find those 3 to 5 metrics like that that really make a difference in your business, because it's different in every business.
Right.
And it's, there's no exact recipe. It's figuring out, where your business is, your circumstance, your lease or whatever, like there's key metrics there that really make all the difference in the world in how your business runs and how efficient it is.
Right.
That made me think of, this will come out in a couple weeks. When we're recording this last weekend was one of the craziest weekends in Lubbock, Texas.
Yes.
George Strait came to town. King George came to town, and in 2 performances, I think 133,000 people attended 2 concerts.
Yep.
But what it did to the local economy in a weekend was insane. Some of our friends over at Evie Mays, we've had them on the podcast. They had the craziest 2 days they have ever had. They, their Facebook posts were just, oh my gosh, I don't know how we did it.
Yep.
Okay, tell me a little bit about, because you were giving me some like metrics and like what you're tracking, and tell me a little bit about this weekend. How crazy was that?
Oh yeah, I'd say it's a record weekend for us too. Friday, Saturday, Sunday was insane. I think that might be, if not the largest revenue generated in a weekend for us, which is phenomenal. So really great. We had a line out the door for 2 or 3 hours Saturday, Friday, and Sunday too. Out line to the street. It was really great. I'm proud of our team, so proud of our team, because that line was long, but they moved quick. And from the time that people placed their orders, we looked back, and I don't think tickets ever went over 7 minutes. I don't think with that long line, our team was hustling. Yeah. So and I think that's part of the water that we swim in downtown too. We had, game day weekend, things like that. And I think one of the biggest things too is that USA Today thing, when we got nominated or won that award, we had crazy weekends with that. And so that was a big growth point for us. Right? Okay, we got to up the systems to handle this load, because we're going to fail if we don't have the people, the processes to sustain crowds. And so it was a really great weekend to see those systems tested. And I went in Saturday and I went in Sunday, just, hey, everybody okay? And, you could tell they might've been a little tired, but they didn't let the guests see that. And, but overall, nobody said, oh man, this is awful. This is the worst day ever. Everybody, we're crushing the rush. We're doing all right. That we're hustling. We're doing good. The morale was great amongst our team. I don't know. Maybe you can ask them. I don't know. But from what I've been told and what I saw, I'm very proud of our team, and it was a record weekend for us. It was crazy. So,
how do you take care of your people in those? Like, I always think of that, of like,
right.
Lubbock's a big small town. So when we have these boom weekends where something, some big event, and we have this big rush of people, they're like, man, how do you take care of your people on weekends like that?
Yes. So two things that each parent told me and Randall growing up. Our mom always told us, you don't have a real job unless you have to mop the floor every now and then. And then our dad always told us, there ain't a dog in the world that don't want its ears scratched. And so as a leader in the business, you got to be able to go mop the floor and go check in on the team when it's a crazy weekend. You can't just be like, nah, they're chilling. We're good. Watching the numbers from your phone. There's been times like that. But when it gets past a certain point, I'm like, hey, I should probably be there and go check in. I should probably go grab the mop. I should probably take out a trash can for them. I should probably wash a load of dishes. And I've gone up there with my kids on the weekends before when it's busy, and have 2 or 3 of them with me at the sink, and we're just passing dishes into the sanitizer, and then stuff like that, where I'm going to go up there and try to be a servant leader first and mop the floor if I need to, or help them get through something like that. Again, shouldn't really have to be doing that as you scale. You should create more systems where that's not always the thing, but it builds morale when you can show up and be present and know your team, let your team know that you're not just watching, the chaos and profiting from it and things like that, where you care, you're involved. And that also lends to the other part where you scratch their ears, you encourage them, and you find something in the chaos to celebrate and say, you're doing a great job. Thanks for smiling at those guests continually. Thanks for, continuing to pour great latte art in every drink, even when we're in a rush, finding something to celebrate in every member of the team when you can. You don't always get to, and it may just be a quick 3-second, hey, great job, something like that, where it's not just, you're always critiquing, you're always coaching, things like that, where you can also uplift through just direct encouragement too, especially in those crazy times. I think those are the times most that you step in as a servant leader and an encourager to build trust with the team and keep morale high in the chaos through the trauma bonding. So we call it, yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, shout out mom and dad. Those are some
Yes.
great
Yeah.
West Texas
Yes.
sayings.
Yes.
The every dog wants his ears scratched. What was
And my
the
mom said, you don't have a real job unless you have to mop the floor every now and then. Or like,
that's great.
yes. And so it's not a real job unless you have to mop the floor every now and then, or if you're not willing to mop the floor every now and then. So, that means if you see a mess in the office and you in the workroom, you can just grab something to clean it up. And I think that anybody can do that. Like, you can find something that you don't have to do as a teammate that will help the team. So.
There's so much good in that of like, and I want to instill this to my kids of that there's no job beneath you.
Yep.
There's just God made us to work.
Yep.
God made us to serve.
Yep.
Other people.
Yep.
And if you can find a way, and that goes so far, when your team sees, hey, the owner cares about these details.
Mm-hmm.
He cares about, the bathroom's clean and the paper towel dispenser is like put together and easy to use.
Mm-hmm.
And, like the little details, like that goes such a long way with like your culture and showing that you care.
Right.
Okay. You mentioned your kids, and I love this. You guys have 4 kids.
Yes. 4 kids.
I don't know how many Randall has.
Randall's got 2. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's
6 little Jacksons running around the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me about that. How do we talk to different entrepreneurs and everybody has a different, method, but how do you teach your kid about business and, what it means, how to appreciate a dollar? Like, how do you involve them in like, what's your method there? I want to know.
That's probably something my wife and I talk about the most. Danae has been so supportive of this venture from the start and has been there with me and the kids too. She does a lot at home. She homeschools right now, and we're very fortunate to do that. But teaching the kids about that, I think it's a Luke Combs song, but it's something that my dad always did too, where our dad was a football coach for 33 years. And his big thing was, I'm bringing you with me. Like, we'd always be at the field house with him, playing in the grass, watching practice. Our favorite thing to do is get in the long jump pits and build sand castles right next to the football field and watch football practice. And so we were always there watching him. And his big thing too was he cared way more. He always said way more about the Jimmies and Joes than the X's and O's. He was about building culture, building people, winning hearts, raising the level of standard of excellence for a team through values, right action, servant leadership, things like that. And so I got to see that firsthand from my dad in a totally non-business field, but he was in the business of creating culture, building teams, and service. And so seeing that's something too that with our business, my wife and I are trying to find more and more ways to get our kids up there and see what we do. And, I'll bring my son with me when we unload boxes of oat milk, and I'll say, hey man, for every 10 of these that you bring in, that's $1, or maybe less, maybe 20 of those, the $1. We got to work. And so we're trying to do that. And so we'll bring in boxes, and I'll teach them, okay, hey, we work for this, we earn this. And, Randall came in while we were doing those boxes and even paid him a little bit more too. Like, hey, wow, we're inflating this. This is a big, good, hourly wage that he's getting right now for helping me. So, but as they're getting older, I'm trying to do that more, and also trying to get more involved with creating content or creating channels of communication with our team and our community that they can see and be a part of, where, these things that are valuable to us that we're not just keeping or not just staying at business, but they're being shared. And that also translates to beyond work too, like at church, being involved in your church and letting your kids see you be that, and bringing them with you when you go up to the church to work or to deliver something or to do that. It's just bring my dad did this, that I think I'm taking you with me or bringing you with me, something like that, where as much as you can try to find a way to bring them and have them boots on the ground. That there are also times, a funny story, there's a side, our dad had a lot of success with his team in Sweetwater, Texas. And there was a time when they'd made a really big playoff run. There were several gold balls on the office table in the coach's office. And my brother and I were playing with these medicine balls, tossing them in the office and just kind of colliding them in the air. And the 2 medicine balls hit in the air, ricocheted, and knocked all those trophies on the floor, shattered. And the gold plating came off the stone and stuff. And I just remember our dad being like, y'all are working, like, all right, you're mowing the practice fields all summer from this. And I know that moment is probably going to come with our children where they are going to be climbing on the pallets of green coffee and knock a bag of coffee off or something like that, where it's going to be in, equal value of, whoa, boy, all right, we're working, you're going to make this right. And, stuff like that. So I'm waiting for that. I call it the trophy moment. I'm waiting for that trophy moment. I know it's going to come. We just got to make sure it's right. And we learn the value of business and of being good stewards of a successful business.
Dude, all of that's so good and so rich. I hate the part of our, obviously there's a part of our culture that like glorifies the grind and making more money and this and that. But there, on the other side of that coin, there's like a part of our culture that like it really, villainizes. That's not a real word. Tries to mock the value of work.
Yeah.
And even a lot of Christians are, of the opinion that they think work is a necessary evil because of the fall.
Yeah.
And in reality, when you read Genesis, like God gave them dominion and stewardship before the fall.
Yep.
And I try to teach this and instill this with my boys of, I don't have to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I get to.
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
I get to, and God made us to work to use our circumstance, our time, talent, and treasure to glorify Him, to build His kingdom, and we get to go to work.
Yes.
And I'm a hammer looking for a nail, and so I'm always trying to discern and develop and figure out, what did God create me to do, and having those conversations with their kids. They're not stupid.
No.
They know when you're stressed.
Yes.
They know when the wheels fell off at work and you're like a zombie and you're there, but you're not there. Like they know.
Yep.
And what an opportunity to teach your kid, because it's not the words you say, but the life you live.
Yep.
And if you can involve them in that and teach them as you're going through that, and man, and what a rich life.
Yep.
Like, can you imagine?
Very blessed. Yep.
Can you like that? That is amazing to get to bring your kids and build something that, maybe they get to be a part of and
Right.
or maybe they just get to have a great childhood and learn a lot from their dad.
Right.
The coaching, like, dude, what vivid, rich memories of lessons learned.
Yep.
And you're not a football coach, so
no. I did get to coach for 1 year with my dad, and that's one of my favorite experiences in my life, because growing up, he always had a lot of success. We never had Thanksgiving with our family because we were always in the playoffs. And his worst 2 years were when I was on the varsity. And so I felt terrible. We went 1-19. And then the year that I got to coach with him, it was his first huge long playoff run that he had since, I'd been on the varsity. And so it was great to kind of redeem that. But hey, I'm with you during this great season. And it was a really great opportunity. And I think one thing that we always take for granted in anybody in a leadership position is that you are a coach. You don't have to be a high school football coach to be a coach. If you're a leader, you're a coach. And I think you got to have that mindset of showing up, holding standards, encouraging, and serving your team wherever you are. And that's something that I'm grateful for my childhood. So, and I think that, again, that's a lesson that applies to whatever you're doing. So,
dude, so great. Okay, we've kind of danced around this. Tell me more about the wholesale operation. So we've talked through, the cafe and like the traditional coffee shop and how you guys approach that and build that culture. We talked about the roasting and, just the attention to detail and all the different, lenses and versions of that. Okay. The wholesale, what does that mean? Tell me more about that.
Wholesale is I don't always know the right business language being in business. It's B2B, right? It's business to business. Yeah. So we're looking for wholesale clients that are in the same industry, coffee, the cafes, bakeries. We have a large part of our sales matrix is churches, and then offices as well too. So just general corporate offices, things like that. So with the wholesale program, it's probably the most unfamiliar to us because we knew coffee getting into the coffee game. We knew how to run a cafe. We knew how to pull a shot of espresso. We knew how to make syrups and serve guests and everything like that. But the wholesale has been a really big learning opportunity for us because it's sales. It's stacking sales funnels. It's cold calls. It's making a good CRM and tracking that and being disciplined with your sales approach there too. And so it's a whole new mindset that we've had to take. And so my technical role now as co-owner is wholesale liaison. So that's what I'm doing. I'm curating and pursuing wholesale relationships, taking care of the people that we've got with us right now, trying to celebrate them and deliver excellent product in a timely manner too. And so that's probably the area that we're currently building the most actively, where we're creating the most infrastructure that is foreign to us and that we're trying to sponge up as much information with sales. So it's been fun to do that. So it's a really great program. Again, the amount of coffee that we're roasting per week, I didn't think we'd be roasting this fast already. We have a really great head roaster. His name is Nick.
Shout out Nick.
Shout out Nick. I was roasting every batch of coffee from 2020 to January 2025. And so that was, I'd like to know how many pounds of coffee I've roasted, but I think he might have already roasted more coffee than I did in those 4 or 5 years in the past year and a half. So it's really great. So it's a really cool opportunity. And that's also a brief touch on delegation, having the trust and confidence to delegate. I think that's something that we have learned over time that has just been incredibly beneficial, and something that you've got to do as a leader to scale your business, to treat the people that are with you right. And, it helps keep you accountable and consistent with building systems that can be delegated. So it's been fun to learn about that too. So, yep. Great. And that goes back to the cafe too. I think one of the first things that we ever delegated was the GM position. And now we've got Faye in there right now, and she's crushing it too. So shout out Faye, and shout out all the shift leads. I wish I could name everybody at the cafe, because I think one of the things that, people come in and they see our guests or they see our team and they get to interact with them just at the register when they're out in the cafe delivering drinks and stuff like that. But there's a lot that people don't see. I'm incredibly proud of our team right now. We have a really great leadership team that is helping kind of curate the culture and steward it at the cafe. And then everybody on the team on the ground floor, incredible camaraderie, really great, energy and passion and encouragement with each other. There's so many things that just go behind the scenes, where we have little notes written on the back fridge or on our syrup bottles or under the counter or things like that are funny and encouraging, but then also very intentional and sincere, and kind of culture progressing, where we're making sure that everybody is set up for success and encouraged at the start of their shift. And there's so many little things that the team does that I walk in on. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, that's funny. But then it's team bonding, and it's not silly. There's a lot of places that can be silly or crude or cynical. I'm very grateful that our team does not have any cynicism there, and even a moderate to low amount of sarcasm. I'm not a big sarcasm guy. I'm too literal robot. I don't translate sarcasm. And so I think there's a lot of sincerity and encouragement and appreciation for each other on the team right now. There's one thing I'm most proud of at Monomyth right now. It's our team and the culture that we have, and seeing what it feels like now. It places a responsibility on Randall and I's shoulders to keep that polished, to be stewards of that, to maintain that culture and things like that. So I think I've swayed from the original question that you just asked, but that was something I just wanted to brag about too. It's just the team that we have right now and how proud I am of everybody at Monomyth Cafe.
Yeah, I mean, you care, and also, it's been modeled for you from your dad, and you've seen bad teams. You've seen I
was the worst team.
My 9-year-old, we're in my 7 and 9-year-old, but my 9-year-old, we're like smack dab in the middle of youth sports era of our life, and we've been on some great teams, and we've been on some bad teams, and my wife and I were talking last night that the team we're on right now is like that fun balance of there's 5 kids that play travel ball and are very good, and then there's a handful of kids who have never played before. And so it's just this amalgamation of all of these different skill levels, but because of the coaches, because of the character of the kids, it's like nothing but encouraging.
Yeah.
Like it is like
Yep.
constantly encouraging, and they're silly
Yep.
and they're funny, and they, like sarcasm.
That's my man.
Yes.
Yeah,
Dude, it is so funny.
That's hilarious.
And anyway, but you can like appreciate what a good team is,
Mhm.
and wanting to like steward that well.
Mhm.
And as a leader, you are a coach, and so you're always like cultivating the talent, trying to grow the talent, trying to recruit the talent. And man, I love the coaching illustration, because that's spot on. As a business owner, like that is your job the rest of your life.
Yep.
You're not the quarterback.
No.
Like you need to get off that field
Yep.
as soon as possible. And how can you be the coach
Yep.
and build a great team?
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. We mentioned this earlier. You were in the cohort, our mastermind cohort, Stag Business Coaching, in partnership with local LBK. And so you were that was such a great and interesting group of people.
Yep.
What was kind of your number one takeaway and your biggest benefit that you got from being a part of that cohort?
Probably towards the end. I don't remember if it was the last one or two of the sessions we went to. One of the biggest takeaways for me was the importance of KPIs. It's something that we've kind of understood from the beginning, but the more you can define and implement those KPIs for your seat, for every seat in your business, it just provides so much clarity and measurables and accountability and clear communication, where you can remove pride and ego and have very constructive conversations that move the business forward, and eliminates any ego. Talking about like ego, like the baseball team, like good teams, no ego, stuff like that. Like it clears any room for ego. We're like, hey, we're all a part of this. We're all on this train. We're all like moving this thing forward. We want the best for this. And here's the metrics we've defined for what success will look like. And are we meeting those? No. What do you need help to, meet that? Where can I help you meet that? Do you need to be pushed a little bit more? How do we hold you accountable? Stuff like that. And so, and two, when you have a really great team, like again, our leadership team now, specifically talking about KPIs, because that's the most, direct translation for us with our leadership team, is having those measurables and things like that. When you have a great leadership team like that, it's very conducive to getting stuff done the right way with the right people, by having a clear vision for what it looks like and what success can be. You can measure success. I think in my life, I'm more, I'm left-handed. I'm more like right brain. I don't like killing the bird to find the song type thing, but in business, that's what you got to do. And the guests don't ever have to see that. They don't have to know that. But as somebody who's in charge of, I think you don't start a business to not make money. You've got to make money. You've got to, that's why you make a business. And so at the end of the day, you got to know how you do that and how you do that well, and what you can change or implement to and continue to do that. I love the idea of like the president of any company, his responsibility is to increase shareholder value. And that's the same thing you're doing for your team. I'm trying to increase my team's value. I'm trying to pay my people more. I'm trying to create growth paths for them that they can move and grow into, like Nick and Faye and Cameron now on our leadership team too. Like that there are really great opportunities that can come for your company that allow you as a leader to step back, delegate, when you can have a clear path for what that would look like and what items you can pass off. So KPIs. That was my biggest cohort thing. I've gone back and tried to define more of those for myself and my seat, and then work with Randall on defining those for our company as a whole.
I love that. And as an Excel nerd myself, we have clients, and we talk to business owners and leaders that, kind of roll their eyes, or our business is just too complex. We can't really nail it down.
Mm-hmm.
And my response to that is always, if you can't break your business down to zeros and ones, like you don't understand it.
Yep.
And of course, there's always nuance. Of course, there's always the relational things and the things you can't measure,
the untouchables.
But if you can break your business down and understand, what are the leading activities that lead to the results that you're looking for, and how can you measure those to understand, why are you getting the results that you are? It just helps with clarity. It helps with communication, and your people, millennials, they want they want feedback.
Yep.
They want to understand, hey, am I doing a good job? Is this good work? How do you define that? How do you measure that?
Yep.
And that's another one of those jobs as a business leaders. You have to fight for that. You have to fight for that clarity that they can get the feedback, and there's there's the scoreboard that they know.
Right.
Hey, are we winning?
Yep.
And anyway, I love that. Okay, last question. Time has flown by. What does this look like 5 years from now? If you can wave a magic wand and you and Randall are killing it. What does Monomyth Coffee look like 5 years from now?
I would love to be roasting thousands of pounds of coffee a week, multiple businesses. I don't know if that'd be multiple cafes. I think multiple cafes, just envisioning with Monomyth, things like that. But maybe other concepts of coffee too, regionally too. I think that'd be really great to have some sort of larger regional presence. I don't want to look beyond Lubbock just yet, but again, 5-10 years, I think it'd be great to be the coffee of West Texas. That's what I'd like to be, the regional coffee powerhouse. That's our goal. We want to be known and create a level of quality and recognition for West Texas too. It's like, hey, there's a lot of really cool stuff out in West Texas. Draw people in here, and they've got really good coffee at Monomyth. And so, regional powerhouse, roasting thousands of pounds of coffee, and then leaders in guest experience and hospitality. The no one come close to us, and that would be a goal too. So, and I feel confident that we're on the track to do that and committed to doing that. So,
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. I love it.
Yep.
All right. Where do we send people to do business with you? Whether it's, your customers walking through the door or the wholesale client, where do they need to go?
Yes, I'd say go to the cafe, 2024 Broadway, or order online at monomythcoffee.com. You can reach me, Trenton, TRENTON, at monomythcoffee.com. And we'll get in touch if you want to buy wholesale coffee. Hit us up. We'd love to supply you. Again, we try to be way more than just transactional and goods, exchange of goods and services. We want to be an informational resource and business resource as well for people who may be starting a cafe or some sort of similar business, or just want to, talk shop with us about business in general. We always like doing that too, and try not to hide any of that. We try to have open doors, and whoever's with us, we try to leave them better than we found them. If they ever leave, we want to try to, create lasting relationships too. So I'd say come to the cafe, order online, get some caterings booked too. We always love popping up in the community as well. So if you need to, celebrate your people at your office or have a wedding coming up, know somebody with a wedding, we'd love to come be mobile, get some good espresso elsewhere. Yeah.
I love it, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Albert. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. If you are a business owner leader and you feel stuck in your business has plateaued, and you don't know how to get to the next level, go to our website, stagcoaching.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, click to book your free consultation. And in your free consultation, we will help give you the next few steps you need to take your business to the next level. It's free, and it's on our website, stagcoaching.com. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.